So there's a number of different definitions of clinical supervision and what a clinical supervisor is. But the definition that I really like the most is one where the clinical supervisor is a mature, more experienced clinician mentoring and assisting a junior clinician in the field, and that clinical supervisor has a number of different responsibilities. Certainly that supervisor, that clinical supervisor, audits, so to speak, oversees the junior clinician's caseload and what that person is doing within that caseload. But the clinical supervisor is also responsible for helping what's called the person of the therapist. And that means that that clinical supervisor is supposed to help that person develop an increased level of self-awareness, an increased level of sensitivity, and an increased level of clarity in regard to not only what is involved in the interior system of the actual therapist or clinician, but also within that relational process with both the client that that person deals with as well as collegial interactions. Another aspect of clinical supervision is the administrative piece of it. And sometimes that can get really, really confusing to folks who have not had any kind of training that distinguishes between administrative clinical supervision and then clinical supervision that is more about the development of the counselor. And so those are things that we talk a lot about in the training, because there are some misperceptions where a higher level person is managing like a clinic or managing other clinicians, but they're not really doing clinical supervision. They might be doing administrative supervision, but clinical supervision is much more in depth than the administrative portion.